In 2025, the global economy depends on a single choke point in Taiwan. But 400 years ago, the world was held hostage by something much smaller, a peppercorn. This exact vulnerability destroyed empires 400 years ago, not with chips, with pepper. And the company that weaponized it became more powerful than most nations, because monopoly isn't a business strategy. It's a form of warfare. To understand how Taiwan became the world's choke point, we need to go back to 1602. Amsterdam was hungry, not for food, for flavor. Europe had spent 1,000 years eating bland porridge and unseasoned meat. Then Vasco da Gama returned from India in 1499 with ships full of pepper. Suddenly, food could taste like something. The demand was insane. A pound of pepper costs the same as a pound of silver. Nutmeg was worth more than gold by weight. But here's the problem. Spices only grew in one place, the Spice Islands, modern Indonesia. Specifically, the Banda Islands are for nutmeg, the Moluccas for cloves. Portugal controlled the trade routes. They'd been there first. They charged whatever they wanted. That's when Dutch merchants had a revolutionary idea. Instead of competing with each other for Portuguese spices, what if they pooled their money and built their own route? In 1602, they founded the Verenigde Oost-Indische Compagnie, the Dutch East India Company, the VOC. It was the world's first publicly traded corporation. Investors bought shares. The company used that capital to build warships, not merchant vessels, warships armed with cannons. Because the VOC wasn't going to negotiate with Portugal, they were going to eliminate them. By 1605, the VOC controlled Java. By 1609, they'd driven Portugal out of the Moluccas. By 1621, they owned the entire spice supply chain. But owning the islands wasn't enough, because spices are agricultural. If you want to control price, you have to control supply. That's when Jan Pieterszoon Koen, the VOC's Governor General, implemented the strategy that would make the company legendary: artificial scarcity through violence. The Banda Islands produced 90% of the world's nutmeg. Population, 15,000. The VOC needed total control. In 1621, Koen declared that the Bandanese were in breach of their trade agreements. His solution wasn't negotiation, it was genocide. The VOC massacred 14,000 people, nearly the entire population. The survivors were enslaved or deported. Then they replanted the nutmeg groves with Dutch-controlled labor. Now, 100% of nutmeg comes from VOC-managed plantations. The price of nutmeg in Europe? Whatever the VOC decided. They controlled every seed, every tree, every harvest. By 1630, the VOC was the richest corporation in human history, worth $7.9 trillion in today's money, more than Apple and Microsoft combined. They paid dividends of 40% annually for 200 years, not because they produced anything revolutionary, because they controlled a choke point. But here's what the VOC didn't understand. Monopolies work until someone finds an alternative.
In 1770, a French botanist smuggled nutmeg seeds out of the Banda Islands. Within 20 years, nutmeg was growing in Mauritius, Zanzibar, and the Caribbean. The VOC's monopoly collapsed. By 1800, nutmeg prices had dropped 95%. The company went bankrupt in 1799. But here's the secret reveal. The VOC didn't fail because they were evil. They failed because they believed their choke point was permanent.
Fast forward to 2025, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC, produces 90% of the world's advanced chips.
Apple, Nvidia, Qualcomm, AMD, every major tech company depends on TSMC. There is no alternative. The company is worth $500 billion. It controls semiconductor fabrication the way the VOC controlled nutmeg, total dominance of an irreplaceable resource. China knows this. That's why they've threatened Taiwan repeatedly. Invading Taiwan isn't about territory, it's about the chip supply chain.
In 2022, the United States passed the CHIPS Act, $52 billion to build semiconductor fabs in America. It's not about innovation, it's about reducing dependence on Taiwan. Because the US government learned what the VOC forgot. Monopolies are temporary. Intel is building fabs in Ohio, Samsung in Texas. The EU is investing 43 billion euros in chip manufacturing. The pattern is identical to 1770. When one source controls everything, everyone else starts planting seeds. TSMC's monopoly will break, not because Taiwan loses a war, because alternatives will emerge. By 2030, TSMC's market share will drop from 90% to 60%. By 2040, maybe 40%. The same curve that destroyed the VOC. The Dutch killed 14,000 people to protect nutmeg. Today, nations are threatening nuclear war over semiconductors. The resource is different. The psychology is identical. Whoever controls the choke point controls the world, until someone finds another route. The VOC believed nutmeg couldn't grow anywhere else. They were wrong. TSMC believes advanced chips can't be made anywhere else. They're wrong too. In 1770, it took 20 years to break the spice monopoly. In 2025, it'll take 10 years to break the chip monopoly, because technology moves faster than agriculture. But the formula is the same. Identify the choke point, build the alternative, wait for the monopoly to price itself out of existence. The VOC's mistake wasn't violence, it was believing their advantage was permanent. They optimized for control instead of adapting to competition. TSMC is making the same mistake. They're building more advanced fabs in Taiwan instead of diversifying globally. When Intel's Ohio fab opens in 2027, TSMC's leverage decreases. When Samsung's Texas facility scales up, it decreases more. The VOC collapsed because French nutmeg tasted the same as Dutch nutmeg. TSMC will decline because American chips work the same as Taiwanese chips. Monopolies die when scarcity becomes artificial. And all scarcity is artificial once someone else learns the recipe. In 1621, the VOC thought killing 14,000 people would protect nutmeg forever. In 2025, nations think that threatening war will protect the chip supply forever. Both are wrong, because monopoly isn't about controlling today's supply, it's about preventing tomorrow's competition. The VOC controlled nutmeg for 168 years. Then it died in bankruptcy. TSMC has controlled advanced chips for 30 years. The clock is already ticking. Pepper isn't worth gold anymore. Nobody even remembers when it was. In 2050, your grandchildren will ask why semiconductors were ever considered strategic, and you'll struggle to explain. Because that's what happens to every monopoly. The thing that seemed irreplaceable becomes ordinary. The VOC proved that violence can't protect scarcity. TSMC is about to prove that geography can't either. The only question is whether you're invested in the monopoly or the alternative. Because pepper was gold, until it wasn't. If you want to see which empire falls next, subscribe to The Financial Reckoning. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes.